Welcome back to the Viper Miner channel. Today I want to answer a question that I've been getting. And this is, I'm sorry, this is going to be more of a talking head video with a couple charts to answer this question. And it's what the heck is going on with cryptocurrency in general. And I want to start out with saying this is not financial advice. Please do your own research, talk to your own financial counsels. And I actually made a video earlier in the week, but then there was some meetings that I had with my day job, which kind of I can carry forward in some of this. And so I wanted to talk about what I'm doing and how I'm reacting. Okay. So anytime you have any kind of drop like we had, whether it's stocks, options, futures, Forex, or crypto, you gotta take that emotion and set it aside, right? There's a old saying in the stock industry, in brokers and stuff like that. They always say women are better traders, and I never understood that why. But as a guy, I always want to try fixing something. When I look at my wife, when she's problem solves, she's always trying to solve the problem without having to fix it right away. And I think that's kind of the difference. And I know I'm stereotyping, but at least for me, I got to take my emotions and put it on to the side. And so very early on in my career, a hedge fund manager asked me, what is it that changed? And that's what you got to look at. So we had a big sell-off, and we had a big sell-off not only in cryptocurrencies but also in the stock market, in the futures, and there was multiple reasons to sell at that point, right? We had a Fed that's starting to tighten and greatly tighten. They're accelerating. We got a war over in Ukraine. We got basically hyperinflation, and believe it or not, we are in a recession. I mean, we are. I mean, we're negative GDP now, right? So depending on what you're looking at, I mean, between gas, I mean, gas is almost $5 a gallon here in Florida. It's never that expensive. I don't think I ever can remember. I think I gassed up yesterday and I paid $4.60. I mean, I never paid that much before for gas. But those are the reasons why we're looking at some of the market going down. And besides that, because of that, we're actually looking also at leadership change within the stock market. Now, I say stock market, and we're talking about cryptocurrencies. However, since Bitcoin and ETH can now be traded on the futures, that kind of changes how crypto is used. Okay. It's no longer the smaller community. It's now the bigger community. It's mutual funds, it's hedge funds, it's day traders, it's everybody that's in this $1 trillion stock market and Forex markets that are now, there's a lot of money going in there, right? Which is good because it's becoming more mainstream, right? However, it kind of decouples what Bitcoin originally was made for, right? To be a guard against inflation, right? Which is what we have right now. But we have to take the good with the ugly and figure out what we're going to do. So again, not financial advice, but figure out what you're going to do. So my first question is, after seeing all that, and I did the same thing when I was, because I have a lot of stocks, a lot of options and futures, what changed fundamentally from the time I went to sleep to the time that morning when everything was starting to go down, right? What changed? And from a crypto standpoint, nothing, right? So yes, we have ETH 2.0 coming, but really, we knew that for how many years now, right? Miners are the ones that are really affected on that. That's a small piece of the trading pie, right? So what are you going to do? So you got to take that emotion and just kind of push it aside. What changed? Nothing really changed, right? Now, there is one caveat to that, right? There was a change in the crypto market, and that was UST. Luna crashed because it couldn't handle this. So, which is kind of interesting because in the top 5 here, you have Tether and USD on crypto CoinGecko for ranking here, right? I have positions within Tether and USD coin, mostly because I use those to pay things, right? So if I buy some hardware off a parallel miner, I get faster shipping if it's paid by crypto. And there are some stuff on parallel miner that you have to buy by crypto, right? So I do keep some cash or coins in these two stable coins. I actually, and then USD coin, I keep that out. To be honest with you, I keep it out in Binance because I can use the BIP protocol chain, which is very cheap. In Binance, I can pay very little fees, and I can also send as much as I want. Whereas with crypto.com and Coinbase, it's minimum $50 you got to send and $25 fee because it's on the ETH mainnet. Now that's off topic, right? But let's get back to topic. What changed? Nothing except for UST, right? And Luna. Now, I've never owned one sliver of UST ever. Just for the fact that I didn't like how they tethered themselves to the US dollar. It was done by algorithm, and they used the Luna token to go off and use that. But there was the worst nightmare scenario that if Luna were ever to crash, that Terra would go with it. That happened. And that's never going to happen. Well, never say never, right? So I know a lot of people got hurt, and there's a couple solutions out there that have been floating around. Max has actually got a really good solution. I think it was 96.5% of the people would actually get made whole because majority are small holders. And then the other 3.5 to 4% there's a way to kind of make them whole as well. I'll link his video about that in my description because I really think it was a good one. And I know he had a lot of skin in the game, so he's really good at what he does. So I'll go ahead and link that. The thing is that this was changed, right? This was a fundamental change. So now how did this affect the rest of the market? Well, yeah, a lot of people kind of panicked and saw this. And a lot of people who might have had, futures contracts on these or were leveraging this now had to go sell crypto, right? To cover their losses here. And then there are a lot of people that panicked. I mean, if you even look at the volume of the USDC and Tether, the volumes were up, right? But so let's go and look at a real quick chart of Bitcoin. All right, there's a couple of things I want to just quickly go over, and this is why I didn't panic, and this is why I didn't sell at 29, 20, 20, 28 something, and I didn't do the same with ETH as well. So what I'm looking at is a chart here, right? So there's, the highs back in November, fourth quarter last year, and we've been in a downturn ever since. But, it's been a slow downturn. It wasn't a, cliff coming off. And so what's important here is to look at, so this is support back here. And now these are support levels as well, but we broke those, right? But here's where I think we're not out of the woods yet, but I think we're getting better. As a chartist, this is what I'm looking at, right? So granted, unfortunately, these lines don't snap. But if you look here, we came down, we broke, and then we closed we closed on, this was what, May 12th. We closed right at support, right? So there was enough momentum coming down to actually do the break support, but we closed and we actually broke support here as well. And here's the telltale and what also I'm looking at. So down here, you'll see a volume chart, right? So let me, some reason I don't think this is showing up on the volume chart here. If I do this, Now you can see volume a little bit better. All right, so let's look at volume. So on this day that we actually, let me get crosshairs on here. I'm not a big fan of crosshairs, but occasionally they're very helpful. Okay, so here we go. We started our down day here, and look at the volume, way above an average. In fact, even the peaks here when we had positive days, we beat that, right? And that was some bad news coming out in the market and a lot of sell-off. Not Tether, but UST was starting to have issues. And then we turned around and we had another down day, another high volume, right? Then but on the 11th, we closed above support. On the 12th, we closed at support. And then on the 13th, which was Friday the 13th, we actually dropped down a little bit, but then we came back up and we did close, right? Above support, significantly, you know, not on support, but above support. Then we had a down day and a down day. But notice the volumes are much lower now. They're more into kind of the average, right? So if I were to get a, I don't know if I could do this with TradeView with the free account, but I can do, if you did a 10-day moving average or even a 20-day moving average on this, you'd see that this is kind of like in the average area. And what happens is that we now did this. We didn't have enough momentum from a chart standpoint to keep going forward. Because if you make this bigger now, we're up to look at volume, you'll notice that there is more support out here. So that this is actually really good support. If you look back even back to January 27th and 22nd, there's a double bottom right here, which is also the support line, right? Now, the thing that concerned me is if you go all the way back out here, we never filled this gap, right? So I don't know if this was an attempt to fill this gap. It was about a 50% refill of that gap. So I don't know if we're going to have another down move. That's what we're going to have to watch. We also have another gap here. And so right now, we could be having an island reversal, right? We got this island of candles out here that are kind of by themselves, right? So we're not sure what's going to happen. We could go back up to here, fill this gap, and then reattempt to fill this gap that's over here. Actually, you can't really see that on my screen. Sorry about that, guys. I got a nice new 36-inch monitor and OBS, and my screen doesn't like the big screen here. So let's go here. And gotta keep going. And there's the gap I'm talking about here back in January, right? There's a gap right here. All right, so what I'm concerned now is that do we hold support and do we go up here? So again, I didn't panic and I didn't sell in my BTC. And I have been transferring, or not actually transferring, but when I mine, I've been using 2 miners right now. And I got everything going on ETH right now, except for a test rig that I'm testing different overclocks on for other coins. So this section here is my concern here, right? So if you were to sell down here, you'd be kicking yourself now, even today, right? I suspect we're going to attempt to fill this. Then the question is, what do we do? Because if you look here, we got gaps everywhere, right? So, and we do fill them. So here's a gap here, right? But we filled that gap. It took a long time, but we did fill the gap on the 24th, right? So I suspect we're going to fill this gap. It may take a little bit longer. I'm hoping that it's fairly quick. We go up and then we make a decision to keep going higher. That's what we all want, right? But right now it's kind of a look to see. So my strategy is, as I mine and get my Bitcoin, every time we have a nice 2% higher, I sell off a little bit. So what I did is I sold off my electric bill for this month, and I sold off my electric bill for next month, because it's pretty consistent on, because I haven't added anything other than one card a couple days ago. And then what happens if we actually get up in here, I'll probably sell off another piece of it, another maybe 20%, and have that for a rainy day that we come up. So basically, got to look to see what's going on. The moral of the story here is don't panic. At least try not to panic. Figure out, if you panic, you make rash decisions. Don't make rash decisions. One of the things that I always talk about clients and stuff like that. It's like, figure out what do you need in the future. So like, if we're talking about stocks, right, a stock portfolio instead of a crypto portfolio, and maybe this is what you're going to be using for your retirement as well. So then treat this exactly the same, right? If you need the money in the next 5 years, what are you going to? You need to make sure that you save or secure that money into a safer, less risky thing. So for instance, if it was stocks, maybe I put it into a blue chip or a dividend type of stock. Maybe I put it into a bond. I mean, right now you can get a treasury bond for almost 10%. I mean, it's pretty, I mean, there's different things you can do from that standpoint. So here I'm looking at conserving and kind of protecting my electric bill, right? Because I have an agreement with my wife that I will mine, and then as long as I can pay the electric bill, the portion for mining into that. So that's what I do here. And I can always, from my day job, pay my electric bill. I'm not worried about that. But it'd be nice from a business standpoint. I want my crypto to pay for my electric bill, right? And anything else, all my hardware, everything else. All my hardware is ROI'd, including the new card I just got, because I ROI'd it a while back. I just never added it into the rig. So what you want to do is just be prudent. Don't panic. Take the emotions out and make a rash decision. Again, not financial advice. Seek your own research. Look at past history is always a good thing to look at. The old saying, history always repeats itself. It does, at least in the markets, it does. And then just be safe. And if you don't know what to do or you have questions, seek out a financial advisor, a licensed financial advisor, right? Don't go to anybody without have them be licensed. Let them go through, be vetted by taking tests and stuff like that, and then actually getting a license. Go ahead and look at the charts. They're very telling. If you have no experience in charting, maybe I could do a charting basic 101. But look for your highs, look for your lows, and look for support and resistance. You can find those. Don't worry about patterns on the chart. All right, patterns do help. And the one thing about Bitcoin, there is a lot of patterns in here that do kind of forecast what Bitcoin's going to do. So even though it seems like it's not predictable, Bitcoin is kind of predictable on the direction it's going. So pick up a book, library. They're really, charting can really kind of help shed some light on what's going on. I know this is a talking video. I talked more than I really wanted to, but I think it was important to talk about what's happening. So to just kind of summarize, nothing really happened from the ecosystem, from fundamentals and Bitcoin to change it, right? Other than it's following the futures, and that's an everyday thing now. That is the new norm, right? The thing that did change in the scope of crypto is it changed with USDT, right? It failed, right? It failed miserably. So go ahead and look at that. And if you're in that, my heart goes out to you, because if you had any kind of significant money in there, that's just sad. It's not how that stablecoin was supposed to work. But I also looked at the stablecoins when I first started looking at crypto. Was stablecoins to me represented like bonds, treasury bonds in the stock market. And if that was the case, then I didn't understand why you would have an algorithm that's just pure math. I mean, I understand math really does work and it's good, but I didn't understand why would you take that risk if there was the real possibility of falling. Now everything can fall, everything can go to zero, but I felt out of the three that were the stable coins at the time in which I started looking at stuff, that was the one I wanted to avoid. So if you got questions, leave them in the comments. I try to answer them. I try to answer all the questions that come through. My Twitter DM is open as well. If you guys want to DM me, that's where a lot of people ask questions. But hopefully things will get better. Be safe, trade responsibly, and hopefully we'll have a profitable day tomorrow.